Raider Nation. Thank you for joining us on the Only Nation podcast, brought to you by the Raider Ramble. My name is Heidi, but you may know me as Kevlar Prom Dress or even Raider Ladybug. I'm here with Raider Homer and T3 Raider Facts, and we're ready to talk some Raiders football together.
Always ready to talk Raider football, especially after spending a great weekend with the Raider Nation, raising money, and meeting Ira Matthews.
Amen to that. Hey, we want to welcome in a special guest this week, but we want to welcome in all of you as well. So let's get started.
All right, today on the show, we'll take a look at some of the Raiders news over the past week, and then we will welcome our guest, Evan Groat, from the popular Just Pod Baby podcast and a frequent contributor on Silver and Black Today. He is our special guest, and we are looking forward to talking some Raiders football.
Okay, Raider Nation, this is the Only Nation podcast, and we want to hear from the Only Nation, so make sure you get in touch with us. Call us at 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. You can leave us a voicemail, or you can even text us.
Here's the latest Raider news.
Raiders.com's Eddie Pascal recently joined offensive coordinator Greg Olsen to discuss Olsen's approach to the 2021 offseason, scouting without the combine, talk about center Rodney Hudson, and Olsen's relationship with new defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. You can check it out on this week's version of Upon Further Review on your favorite podcasting app or on Raiders.com.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to know a little bit more about Olsen and Bradley and just fitting everything together. And, of course, I am glad that they're talking about center Rodney Hudson because he's my guy.
Wide receiver Tyrell Williams was released this past week. His release frees up $10.6 million against the salary cap and leaves a dead cap hit of only $1 million for 2021.
I hope he does well. I wish him well, but he needs to be in another uniform, and we need to bring somebody else in.
I know that we were talking about him, this being his final year, or last year being his final year with the Raiders in previous episodes, but I thought that maybe after him wanting to come back and, you know, us needing a good wide receiver core, he would come back. But they didn't. They freed up the cap space, so we talked also about that not being enough to cover Aguilar, so I'm curious to see what else they're going to have to do. Tyrell Williams, though, I think would have been a good number 2 if he could have stayed healthy. Unfortunately, he didn't, so now he's not a Raider anymore.
Yeah, that was just the key, if he could stay healthy. Otherwise, I think he would have been a great signing. It was recently reported that the trade market surrounding Raiders' backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota, had dried up significantly, leading to the supposition that Mariota could be released by the Raiders and then have the choice of any other team that makes him an offer, which could get him more guaranteed money in the process. It would also free up even more cap room for the Raiders should he get cut.
Yeah, I wish that they had showcased Mariota more during the season so they could have upped his trade value, and I think that's kind of, like they said, his trade value's dried up significantly, and chances are they're not going to get anything for him, and they're just going to release him, and they could have gotten something in return, but we can't waste time worrying about that. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
I think you should keep Marcus Mariota. I know we were kicking around trade scenarios and things like that, but none of that worked out, right? We're all just speculating. But now that this is significantly dried up, this interest in him, keep him. You know what I mean? Because the guy did come in and play well. You saw him only once, but he played well. So I think you should definitely keep Marcus Mariota there. Because you never know what can happen. And if you keep him and decide to go with him, when come draft time, you never know what will happen. When teams are scrambling to find a quarterback and their favorite quarterback's gone, he's still, it's dried up now, but he still has value to the team as far as being a backup quarterback and to the league who needs quarterbacks. This is a quarterback league, as we've been talking about, throughout this entire podcast and even in this interview coming up, So Marcus Mariota is a player that we should keep for sure.
I would love to keep him. I really would. The problem is it will be an $11 million cap hit. And unless he's willing to restructure, that's a pretty big hit for a backup quarterback. And he wants to start, so he's probably not wanting to restructure.
There is talk about the cap, the floor of the cap going up a little bit more. I'm just not sure how much more it's going to go up. And again, Homer, I'm like you. I would love to keep him, but there's just too much money on the table there to tie up when we have so many other needs.
I mean, if you're gonna try to save money, right, then get rid of Joyner, who didn't do jack shit. Get rid of Nassib, who didn't do jack shit.
Nassib would be a big cap hit.
Well, I mean, they can work it out with some of those guys then. You know what I mean? All I'm saying is I understand that he's a big cap hit. I mean, you got to keep him at this point. If you're not going to get anything back for him, you just cut him, and then you don't have a backup quarterback, and then Derek Carr goes down next year, and then that's it. That's the end of the season. Who are we going to get as a backup? That's better than Marcus Mariota at $11 million.
MV Peterman.
Yeah, okay. But anyways, I think that it might be like the Gabe Jackson thing last year where, we had him on the trade block, but nobody really took it. And then he stayed and had a great year for us. It might be something like that because he's a big cap hit. I mean, at least, I feel as a fan, I'm comfortable knowing that Marcus Mariota can come in and play, and we have a chance of winning. So that, as far as, and I'm pretty sure Gruden feels the same way, and so does Mark Davis and all them. But we shall see.
If we didn't have almost a $20 million difference in cap, I don't think it would even be an issue. But I've have concerns about the Raiders wisely spending money this year and wisely using every resource they have. And I'm just not sure that in a year that we're faced in the post-COVID era that we can hang on to a guy like Marcus when we have, again, so many needs.
Well, I think he only has one more year, right?
Yeah, he signed a 2-year deal.
You know what I mean? So if you just keep him this year, you got that security. You feel confident. You feel, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it. He's not like he's a Peterman getting paid $11 million. You know what I mean? And look, he is this, RPO style running back like a Watson, right? So that's why, I was laughing when, people were talking about trading for Watson. I'm like, wait a minute, we already pretty much have Watson on our roster already. It's the same style quarterback. You know what I mean? He took his team to the playoffs. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, he's, not that Watson was, but I'm just saying that's his, that's what he's accomplished. I think he's a valuable part of the team.
I think Watson is a step or two above Mariota, though.
I mean, maybe. Okay. I mean, they had a great defense in Houston, though. They had a really good defense in Houston. But hey, I'll just leave it at that.
And best wishes to our friend and former guest, Scott Gulbranson. This past week ended his run of Silver and Black Today on Raider Nation Radio, as he steps away from the popular show and concentrates on health issues and an upcoming surgery. Scott, we at the Only Nation podcast want to thank you for all your past support, send out our prayers and best wishes for a speedy recovery and a quick return to your Raider family.
Absolutely. Send in prayers. I'm hoping everything works out for him. He was a great friend of the Only Nation podcast, so thanks for coming on the Only Nation podcast and sending prayers your way.
Hey, Scott, just lay back this week and let us do all the heavy lifting and then come back and join us when you are good and ready to go, and we will be more than ready to have you back.
Our guest today is the host of Just Pod Baby and a frequent contributor on Silver and Black Today. He's been a Raiders fan pretty much his whole life, and he's joining us here today. Allow me to welcome Evan Groat to our show.
Welcome.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you thinking to have me on. And as a fellow podcaster myself, I understand, the difficulty sometimes to get guests on. So I'm glad I could help you out.
Evan, thank you so much. We're looking forward to this.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Anytime.
All right, I'll just start us off. Evan, what do you think is the priority for free agency? We can either be talking about a position or a specific player. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm sure my thoughts are much of the same you guys share and a lot of the fans out there. I think obviously the defense has to be the priority here. They have to address the issue that's been ongoing for several years now, which is that defensive line. They have not been able to generate enough pressure, both on the interior as well as out on the edge. I know they've put some resources out there as far as draft picks in recent years to try to address that with Max Crosby and Cleveland Farrell, but they just have not brought the impact that this defense needs. Right now, the interior part of that defensive line has only 2 guys under contract, Maurice Hurst and now David Irving. So they have to definitely bring in some bodies there in free agency. I think that definitely has to be priority number one. After that, I think they need to bring in another safety to play alongside Jonathan Abram and a couple guys, obviously, that I'm looking at, and I'm sure you guys are looking at as well. Marcus May is the guy that's at the top of my list, my wish list for the Raiders this free agency. I'm not quite sure what the price tag on him is going to be. It might be a little bit too much for the Raiders, depending on how much money they are able to free up. But he's one of the guys I wouldn't mind seeing them bring in. So I think definitely the top two priorities have to be along the defensive line, in particular in the interior part of the line, a free safety. But I also think they need to address some things on offense. I don't think when you look back at this past season, yes, we know the big problem was the defense, but I'm one of the guys out there that thinks that the offense did play some role in the demise of this team down the stretch. The red zone offense was not great. And there's a lot of question marks right now on that offense. What are they going to do with Trent Brown? What does the future hold for Richie Incognito? Nelson Aguilar is a free agent. So there's some question marks there as well. What about a backup running back behind Josh Jacobs? So there's a lot of issues on the offensive side of the ball as well that cannot be neglected.
Talking about the offensive line, I think it's very important that Richie Incognito comes back, because then we can use good at right tackle if we don't sign a right tackle. I like that chemistry there, and I think Richie coming back and helping Miller on the left side, that'll definitely keep the offensive line intact for the most part. And then free safety, defensive tackle, that's what we were talking about last episode. We also were kicking around the idea of Richard Sherman at free safety, having the Raiders pull, another Charles Woodson. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know a lot of Raider fans are in favor of that move. I'm not quite sure how I feel about that at this point. I understand there needs to be some veteran leadership on the defensive side of the ball, especially in the secondary, because they're so young there. But, it all comes down to money, of course, because the cap situation is going to be a problem for the Raiders. How much does Sherman have left in the tank? He's dealt with some injuries here over the last couple years. I know he's a very smart guy, and he's kind of that alpha male that could be a good mentor to some of these young guys. And I think the most attractive feature about Richard Sherman is that he is familiar with Gus Bradley's defense.
So at free safety in the cover three, he can help those young cornerbacks, not only mentor them, on the sidelines, but also be there on the field to help them out. I think that would be crucial. Even though Witten coming on kind of held back Moreau, it also gave Moreau time to get healthy. But Witten helping Waller. Waller played much better this year, So I was kind of hoping from that angle, because we need Gus Bradley to come in, and that defense got to be firing, on all cylinders week one. We can't afford this defense to take 8 weeks to figure it out. That's too long, So I was hoping that we can get a player like that, because I really want to build through the draft on the defense. But if we do, because we have to sign free agents on the defense also, I'd rather get guys that can coach these young guys. That way we can get these young guys coached, be patient with them, and then hopefully within the next 2 to 3 years be poised to really go on a long run, and win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, all valid points. And you mentioned the one that kind of concerns me the most is what we saw last year. They brought in Jason Witten. And to me, I know that he was there to be a mentor, and I'm sure he served in that role behind closed doors more than we know. But once Morrow was healthy and ready to go, I do think he kind of took away from his snaps, and I wasn't a big fan of that. So I know Gruden loves his veterans. I just hope that if you're going to bring in a veteran, you also bring in some guys who are, entering the prime of their career, who can step in and still offer you something for the next 2 or 3 years, not just one season alone.
All right, as you alluded to earlier, another thing that Raider Nation has been concerned with is the conservative play calling, especially in the red zone. What do you think needs to change in this regard?
Yeah, I mentioned we mentioned Foster Moreau. I would have loved to see him be a little bit more involved down there, inside the 10-yard line, because he was so good there in the previous season. I believe he had 6 or 7 touchdowns. So he's proven he can be a very good threat in the red zone. Another guy I would have liked to see more involved in the red zone is Brian Edwards. And I know that he dealt with his fair share of injuries this year. But these are especially in the case of Brian Edwards, he's a big bodied athletic receiver who is very good at, going up and high pointing the ball with those 50-50 balls. He's very good at that. He showed that he can do that very well in college. And then another issue that I have is with the play calling. I just think, and you mentioned being too conservative, and not only is it too conservative, but it's not creative enough for me. And, I'm not an offensive play caller by any means. John Gruden obviously knows what he's doing, but I think at some level, when I watch all these other NFL games being played, it just seems as if there's so much more creativity being happening inside that red zone, especially when you get into those goal-to-goal situations. I go back to the game, I believe it was the Chargers game towards the end of the season where they had, or maybe it was the Dolphins game. I can't. They all blend in at this point. But where Mariota was in the game, so I believe that was the Chargers game, and they ran that fourth down play, or maybe it was a third down play. Again, my memory is a little foggy on that. But they ran that little quick out, that spider 2-wide banana to Alec Ingold, which was incomplete. Right?
Yes.
You guys recall that play, I'm sure. To me, it's like, that's Gruden's bread and butter. Who you have to assume that play was coming. So you needed to score badly in that situation. That cannot be the best play you have in your playbook on that situation. Not to mention, on that same exact play, Darren Waller, if you go back and watch, was on the left side of the line blocking. So your best target wasn't even running a route on that play. So to me, that's some of the issue that I have with the play calling in the red zone.
Well, even if he completed that pass to Ingold, it was two yards short of the goal line.
Correct.
And there was a play earlier in the season against the Carolina Panthers where they did the same thing, and they threw a pass to Witten on a third down and goal, and they completed the pass, but he was knocked out of bounds at the 2. So once again, you have those short passes that don't even get to where they need to get to.
I know this is a new NFL and you got to be creative and all that. And yes, Gruden is conservative sometimes, but also Gruden is an old school football guy. And that's what I like to watch. I remember those old school. We were talking about Bo Jackson in the green room, right? So in my mind, earlier you talked about getting another running back. We need that big thumper, that Tyrone Wheatley, that Zach Crockett that can complement Gruden's play style call, right? You got to be able to line up. It's football, right? Football, the schemes have changed and all that, but the game is still the same. Hit the other guy harder and dominate. And you got to be able to fire off that ball and inside the 5 with the Mariota. Maybe they should have ran an RPO, but with the big running back, be able to push through because you got some of the big road graders that you got right there on the offensive line, running behind a great pulling lineman like Jackson. Rodney Hudson can pull and run. I mean, or just fire off the ball and run straight ahead. I feel like that will open up the offense. And you talked about Moreau working it, in the red zone, like that last play against the Broncos, how he was able to block out. So I don't know. I just feel like if we get a running back, it'll open up more plays, creative, like shorter plays. Cause remember, when you're in the red zone and such short yardage like that, the defense, it's real small. All their responsibilities, all their zones are real small. So they're looking, especially in today's NFL for the pass. Sometimes we just got to be able to run up there and smack them in the mouth.
Yeah, and also it's about being balanced, right? You have to be able to do both. You have to be able to, when you need to, you have to be able to, ground and pound. But at the same time, you have to be able to throw a little creativity and a little trickery in there. Again, I'm gonna go back to the Chiefs here. I mean, if you watch a Chiefs game, Andy Reid, has so many different things that he can do inside the red zone. It's not always based on the run. Sometimes it's these little short pitches. Little short pitches to Kelsey coming across. Yeah, exactly. Maybe get Henry Ruggs involved a little bit more in the red zone as well. So, I just want to see a little bit balance. I don't want to see so much predictability inside the red zone.
All right, Evan, on this podcast, the Only Nation podcast, we have all been big believers of Derek Carr. Do you think that all that offseason Carr bashing will affect DC in a negative way, or do you think this will just motivate him more?
Well, first, everyone has different opinions on Derek Carr. And my opinion is that, he's a borderline top 10 quarterback. Some believe he is a top 10 quarterback. I believe he's somewhere around there, maybe just outside the top 10. I'm not necessarily a believer that there's Carr bashing going on right now, because the point that I'm making here is that if you think about the trade speculation that has gone on right now. A couple of the quarterbacks this year that are looking to be traded, Deshaun Watson, top 5 quarterback in the league right now. Now we have Russell Wilson, who says he's interested in 4 teams. He's got 4 teams on his list. He named the Raiders as one of those teams. He's a top 5 quarterback in the league. Going back to last season when we heard all these rumors in the offseason, the Raiders potentially flirting with Tom Brady, the GOAT at the position, maybe the GOAT in the sport. So, you're talking about quarterbacks who are very, very good. So, if I'm Derek Carr, I'm not sure if I'm taking that as an insult. I believe he said it himself. If any organization, if there's an organization out there who isn't at least calling Tom Brady to, have a conversation with him, you're probably not doing it the right way. So, I'm not sure it's quite Carr bashing. Gruden and Mayock have said, I've heard them say this, I'm sure you've heard them say it in press conference as well. If you have an opportunity to upgrade at any time, at any position, you have to at least look at that scenario. Now, I think there's some miscommunication out there whether or not Carr is actually being shopped. He's not actively being shopped right now by the Raiders. Are they getting phone calls on him? Yeah, absolutely. So they're two different things. Now going back to your question, do I think this is going to motivate him? I hope so. Last year he put some comments out there that he was tired of being disrespected and whatnot after, hearing that the team was flirting with Tom Brady. And I think he came out and he played well last year. He played well. So I do think he does kind of have a chip on his shoulder. He does take this personal. So yeah, I think he'll use it as a little extra motivation in the off season and going into the season next year.
See, what I've always said, since Gruden's been back here with the Raiders with Derek Carr at quarterback, is that Derek Carr is the perfect kind of quarterback for John Gruden. All right, he's somewhere in between Rich Gannon and Brad Johnson, the cerebral, go to work, blue collar type guys that can and athletic with a big arm. All right, and see, you say borderline top 10, borderline top 10, whatever. That's a good quarterback in the NFL. All right, so if I'm Mark Davis, I'm looking at Mike Mayock and I'm saying, you know what? In Tampa, he beat us. I was there. I saw that. He had a great defense. We know we have a good offense. We have a top 10 offense. We have a top 10 quarterback. Build that defense. Let's get this defense going. And I think that's how you get the championship with Gruden, because he is a little bit conservative, but he's also he knows what he's doing. But you talk about Watson and Russell. Like I'm insulted. I feel disrespected by those guys because look, we got a quarterback that has gone through quarterback changes. Coaching changes, offensive coordinator changes, city location, changed cities, dealt with COVID, injuries, and only missed a handful of games, 3 games. And everybody's like, oh yeah, trade. While, Watson, good player, but he's threatening to hold out. We don't need that. And that's not Raider. That's not the Raider way. We don't want players like that. We went through that with Mac and Russell. I'm disappointed with him because I would like to see Russell as a quarterback for the Raiders, right? But for him to put it out through his agent that he's looking for a trade, don't use us for leverage. You know what I mean? I don't like that because then he gets the Raider Nation in an uproar, and that's where all this, quote unquote, Carr bashing comes from. Because it turns into this argument. Well, this guy did this and this guy did that. But in reality, Derek Carr is only 8 games away from having 4 winning seasons. All right, and come on. The guy can play ball. Like you said, are people calling the Raiders? Yes, because Derek Carr has value. So I don't know. That's how I feel. I just feel like he is definitely the kind of quarterback that we can win a Super Bowl with, but we just got to get this defense going. And I hope the Raider Nation just stays calm and backs Derek Carr.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily disagree with what you're saying. I think Carr is a very good quarterback. I think he can absolutely get them to the playoffs with a little bit of an improvement on the defense. I think they can do that. But, my thought process about the NFL is that it is a quarterback-driven league. I've said this many times on my podcast. I've said it on Raider Nation Radio. It all starts with the quarterback. It's all about the quarterback. That's why they're the highest paid players in the game. That's why the left tackles are one of the second highest paid players in the game, because you got to protect that quarterback. And then when you look at defense, 2 of the premium positions are cornerback and defensive end. You got to be able to put pressure on the quarterback, and you got to be able to defend these receivers that the quarterback's throwing the ball to. So it's all based on the quarterback. And if you have an opportunity to get elite at that position, I don't think there's any denying Russell Wilson is an upgrade over Derek Carr. Deshaun Watson is an upgrade over Derek Carr. I don't think there's any denying that. I mean, I think
that's true. That is a true.
I think you need to
statement.
investigate that. If Watson right now isn't available, so it's really a non-point right now. But if he was to become available, I think you have to at least do your due diligence. I'm not saying they have to give up, their mortgage the future to make that move, but I think you should at least take a look at what the price might be, because that's what organizations do. You have to at least look into the scenario. And I think the problem that some people might view when they hear me say this is that I'm a Carr hater, and that's not it at all. I feel totally comfortable going into the season with Carr. I just feel, if you can upgrade and the price is right, I think you have to do it. And that goes for any position along the team on the roster, not just the quarterback. It's any position.
I'm just happy to hear so many players, including top-tier quarterbacks, who are now saying that they want to play for the Raiders, and not just to get a paycheck like they used to do back when Al Davis was around, but they truly want to come in to Vegas, and they truly want to be a part of the Raider organization, which I think is a great thing for all of Raider Nation to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gruden said that a couple years ago. Players want to come play for the Raiders, and a lot of people laughed at him for that comment. And I was one of them that kind of was like, what is he talking about? Who wants to come play for this organization right now that hasn't had a winning season or one winning season in the last 20 years? But I think what we're seeing is maybe there was something to that. Russell Wilson, again, he's a guy who's had a lot of success in this league. He has a lot of respect in the league. Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner this past season. And when he gives you a list of 4 teams and the Raiders are on it, I find that very flattering as a fan of the team. So hopefully that thought is shared by some of those free agents that are out there, and the Raiders can go after and sign a couple of these guys.
I'll just say, I don't think you're a Carr hater at all for saying that. Watson or Wilson would be a step up, and it would be foolish of the Raiders to not consider them, or at least do their due diligence to look at them. So you're definitely not a Carr hater just for saying that.
No, I don't mean to imply that you're a Carr hater. I hope that's not how it came off. I'm just saying, they did their due diligence, and Derek Carr, he knows that too. But at the same time, I believe Watson and Russell are using the Raiders as leverage. I just feel like that was a leverage move on those players' parts. And I don't know about Watson being a definite upgrade over Carr. Remember, he went 4-12. Yeah, he put up a bunch of numbers, but when we're talking about Carr bashing, the defenders of Carr, right, they say he can put up the numbers, but then the naysayers say, well, we're not getting wins. So last year, Watson put up numbers and he did not get wins. So what's to say that he can come to the Raiders and take the team more than what or do more with the team than what Derek Carr did? Derek Carr, we were 8-8. There were a handful of games. We could have easily been 10-6, 11-5. I think the needs are somewhere else, and especially on defense, like we talked about. But that's just me. I'm a Carr fan, quote unquote Carr lover, whatever. But sorry, I didn't mean to come across it as I was calling you a Carr hater.
No, that's not why I made that comment. And I understand.
Okay.
He's a very polarizing player.
Yes, the Derek Carr divide is real.
Yeah, it is. It's I've never seen anything like it in all of my years as a Raider fan.
Right.
It's very divisive, and there's really there's definitely no majority when it comes to the feelings on Carr. And again, I think he's a very good quarterback. But if there's an upgrade to be had, I think they got to at least look into it.
All right, well, cool. Let's talk about some happy stuff. Let's get happy. Let's get pumped up. Now that Tom Flores is finally in the Hall of Fame, what can we do as a fan base to get Cliff Branch in next?
Well, I tell you one thing, Raider fans are loyal and they're passionate. And when they feel they have, a point that needs to be made, they're going to let people know, just like they did all these years with Coach Tom Flores. I think it comes to, obviously it's in the hands of the voters, the committee of people who vote. But as I said, Raider fans are going to be advocates for their guys, like we've seen over the years with Coach Flores, and I'm sure it'll be no different now for Cliff Branch. He's very, very well deserving. I saw some numbers out there where there's players that are currently in the Hall of Fame that Cliff Branch has better career numbers than.
Pearson,
so,
yeah.
I mean, I don't have him here in front of me. I can't rattle off all Cliff Branch's numbers. I mean, he don't forget I'm only 37 years old, but I know he's very well deserving. He's a legend with the Raiders organization, and obviously very well deserving of the Hall of Fame. So hopefully he'll get there very soon.
All right. Evan, we hear talk all the time about the Raiders acquiring that alpha dog on the team. Now, in your opinion, does that guy have to be on the defense? And also, does it have to be an established veteran, or could it be a rookie?
I would say, yeah, I think they need to find a voice for the defense, because when you look at the offensive side of the ball, they have Derek Carr. I think he's their, obviously everyone knows he's the leader of this team, and because he's on the offense, he plays the quarterback position, he's obviously the alpha male on the offensive side of the ball. So they have to find a leader on that defense. I mean, when you look at that side of the ball right now, who could you say is their leader? I don't think they have one right now. They really don't. And that's part of the problem. So yeah, I would say it has to be someone that is on the defensive side of the ball. And I would say, yeah, it has to be a veteran. We talked about Richard Sherman earlier in the show, and again, I'm not really sure how I feel about that, because I want to make sure he's still going to make an impact on the field. I mean, I know they need the veteran leadership and someone there to get to some of these young guys' ear, but I also want it to be someone that can go out there on the field and kind of back up what they're saying as well. So I do think it has to be a veteran. They brought in a lot of young guys here in the past couple drafts. I think Jonathan Abram has the mindset and all of that to be an alpha, but he's just not backing it up right now with his play. So I do think they have to bring in someone that's a veteran that has a proven track record of some success in the league that will kind of, get the attention of some of these younger guys.
Yeah, and I know we've talked a little bit too, in addition to the defense, we've talked about the offense, and you brought this up earlier. What concerns do you have about the Raiders' offensive line? And should the Raiders use at least 2 of their picks in the draft to address that, or maybe 1? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's obviously going to come down to, what they decide to do with Trent Brown. That's really the first domino that, needs to fall before I can totally say for certain, but that is concern number one. Are they going to bring him back at $14 million a year, a guy who has been injured a lot over the last 2 seasons? There's some speculation surrounding him amongst the fan base, whether or not he's fully committed to the organization, whether he's motivated enough after getting that huge payday. I've been very supportive of Trent Brown. I think he's such a difference maker when he's out there. That I'd like to see them bring him back, but I don't think it will happen. I just think the money, $14 million, they're going to need that to if they want to improve that defense. They're going to have to make some room on the cap, and that's a lot of money. They could bring in 2 players on defense, with that $14 million. So, and then Richie Incognito is another big piece. I think he's age 39 now, coming off an Achilles injury. How much does he have left? Was very good the last couple years, don't get me wrong, but I think his cap hit is around $6 million, somewhere in that, $5 or $6 million. So you're talking about nearly $20 million right there with 2 players that you could free up and address that defense with. They have John Simpson, who's kind of waiting in the wings to take over. They drafted him last year out of Clemson, so he could be a guy to step in at left guard. Denzel Good, are they going to bring him back as well? So they have some options. And then, if they decide not to go with Trent Brown, then you have a major hole there that, as you mentioned, they would have to probably address that during the draft. And I would not be shocked to see them make a pick in the first round if there's someone there that they like and the value is there as well. So, yeah, they have a lot of question marks along that offensive line right now. Really, they have question marks all over this roster right now. So it should be a very interesting next couple of months here once the new league year begins and free agency gets underway.
Yeah, I would definitely think, though, we need to try to keep Incognito at least for 1 more year and give Simpson that second year to kind of get into the groove of it all, because he played a lot last year, but I think he kind of struggled a little bit. You definitely noticed that Richie Incognito wasn't there. But Good is, definitely a must re-sign, because that dude is valuable. One thing that I talk about, one thing that disappoints me when it comes to defensive players in free agency is that they're not as interchangeable in between the 4-3 and the 3-4 as, offensive linemen like Denzel Good are from guard to tackle. And then, in Gruden's wide receiving group, they all know how to play X, Y, XYZ. We got Waller playing, XYZ. So the offensive players are like, you can put them wherever you need to, but defenders, they don't. So, it's, we'll see. Good is definitely somebody that we need to get in there. Cause Brown, that's too much. That dude ballooned up. Derek Carr got that growing injury, right? And came right back, Arnett got knocked out twice and came right back, and surgery, on his thumb, and came back twice, so Trent Brown was a huge disappointment. I was looking at some memes or whatnot, or pictures of stats and whatnot online, and they were talking about one of the most disappointings is, I think it was 28 pass breakups, or like something like that, like Marcus Joyner over the last something years, or maybe it was 8. But that was one of the most depressed or disappointing signings that we've made in a long time. But no, it's Trent Brown. That dude could change the game, but he got rich and then he got big. He ballooned up and then he didn't have the heart. So we got to do something about that. So, but hopefully we can keep Incognito for one more year and get Simpson up ready to go. And then we'll figure out right tackle depending on how good does.
Hey, Evan, before we let you go, now, number one, if there's anything else that you want to add that we can discuss, I'll be happy to do that. But I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. I know you've been on Silver and Black Today with Scott Gulbranson every Thursday, and we just finished that run. And of course, we had the emotional farewell. But on behalf of all of us, and I'm sure on behalf of you as well, we want to wish Scott very well, and we will take this opportunity to let him know that our thoughts and prayers are with him. And having said that, tell us where we can find you and where we can hook up with you during the course of the week and on the daily.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter, first and foremost, at eGroat5. I usually have, I tweet out my podcast episodes weekly. I usually record on Thursday nights, so they're usually available late Thursday night if you're an East Coaster or early Friday morning. And if you're on the West Coast, it'll be available for you Thursday evening. But I usually record once a week. During the off season, sometimes I go to once every other week because it's just kind of a dead zone or dead period. But you can find me on all the major platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major platforms. So check me out. Subscribe to the show if you enjoy it. Love to have new fans all the time. So. I just enjoy it.
All right. Thank you very much, Evan. Or give us a call at 904-701-8667. Leave a voicemail or text message at that number, or send in a message via social media, and we'll share your thoughts. And that brings us to a new rendition of Homer Did You Know?
Hey Homer, did you know?
All right, now it's time for another edition of Hey Homer, Did You Know? In this segment, I will ask Homer and the rest of our listening audience a Raiders-related question with 3 possible answers to choose from. It's multiple choice, so just give it your best guess. So here goes. Here is this week's version of Homer, Did You Know? Now, here's an interesting question involving Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks who went on to play quarterback in the NFL. Since 1963, 31 quarterbacks have won the Heisman Trophy, with Roger Staubach winning it in 1963. That's the year after I was born, by the way. Now, the Raiders have had 5 of them on their collective rosters. There are only 3 NFL franchises that have never had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback on a team roster. Now, I'm going to give you a list of 3 teams. See if you can pick the one, and then I'll give you the other 2 after I give you the answer. So here's the question. Which of these 3 teams have never had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback on its roster? Is it A, the Jacksonville Jaguars, B, the New York Giants, or C, the San Diego/Los Angeles Chargers? Homer, what do you think?
C, the Chargers.
Heidi, what do you think?
That's a tough one. I'm going to go with the one that nobody thinks, the Giants, B.
Well, now here's the answer. And Heidi, you are correct, the Giants. C, and I snuck one on there on you, Homer. For a very brief time, Doug Flutie was on the San Diego Chargers roster for just a very brief moment. And the Jacksonville Jaguars had a quarterback by the name of Andre Ware who also played for the Raiders and also played for the Detroit Lions. So the New York Giants is the answer. The other two NFL teams that have never had a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, amazingly enough, are the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins. And that is this week's version of Hey Homer, Did You Know?
Well, now I do.
I would not have guessed the Steelers.
So how many total Heisman Trophy winners have we had on the roster or on the Raiders? Bo, Marcus, Woodson, Plunkett, Howard.
I'd have to go back and count.
Mariota.
I know we've had 5 quarterbacks, and I know
I'm trying to remember.
the quarterbacks we've had are Marcus Mariota,
Brown.
Matt Leinart, Carson Palmer, Andre Ware,
Yeah, but I'm just talking
and Jim
about
Plunkett.
overall.
I'd have to go back and look. I think it's at least 10.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's getting up there. Al Davis, he loved his Heisman Trophy winners, that's for sure.
And that about does it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us on the Only Nation podcast. We want to thank once again our special guest, Evan Groat from Just Pod Baby. If you'd like to help support the show, buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/onlynationpod. You can find me, Heidi Stabbert, on social media as @KeplerPromDress on Twitter and Instagram, or Heidi Stabbert on Facebook.
All right, Raider Nation, give us a call at 904-701-8667. We want to hear from y'all, Raider Nation. We'd love to hear from y'all. Come at us with some questions, some trivia, whatever you got. Y'all ask us some questions. We'll see if we can answer them. Just get in touch with us. You can also email us at onlynationpod@gmail.com, and you can find us on both Twitter and Instagram by going to @onlynationpod. We're also on Facebook and YouTube at the Only Nation Podcast. Be sure to hit like and follow wherever you catch us on social media, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting apps, and toss us a 5-star review if you think we're up to it. You can find me by going to the Raider Homer channel at buzzsprout.com. That's a little website that I have that distributes my personal podcast, but it also has links to all of my social media accounts.
And this is T3 once again reminding you just how important it is for the growth of this show for us to get your input. Send us your name and address so we can send you some free Raider swag. Call us and tell us what you want to know. Throw us an interesting nugget that we can use on one of our upcoming episodes, and become a part of what we're doing here. Remember, this is the Only Nation, and we want you to be a part of it. So call us, 904-701-8667. That's 904-701-8667. Call us now and join the Only Nation podcast family. You can find me on social media on Twitter at T3_sports703, on YouTube at T3 Sports Guy, and on Facebook at Tom THOM Jones.
As always, we look forward to hearing from you. Until next time, everyone, go Raiders.
Go Raiders.
We are not just a nation. We are the only nation of Raiders.
Whoop, whoop.
I forgot to hit record.
No, you didn't.